Welcome back to Sprague Homestead. So as I promised, I would have a video out about some of my favorite homesteading type books. So we're going to go through and do that today. Now, I don't have books on everything. I usually only buy books on stuff that I'm researching for a new project. Or, I like to have a good reference book on hand. So I have a bunch of different stuff. I'll kind of go through my different categories. I probably have a good 150 books on homesteading, covering everything from beekeeping to ducks to poultry to herbal medicine, make your own house cleaners, all kinds of stuff. So, but I don't recommend every one of them to every person. Usually there's little nuggets to be gained out of everything, but unless you've got all the time and money in the world to have a huge bookshelf, they're probably not worth doing. Some of these I've had going on 20 years, so like I said, I'm a big book reader, so lots there. So I will start this by saying I have almost the entire collection of Joel Salatin books. If you're wanting to get into farming for profit, that kind of thing, I highly suggest Joel's books. I don't always agree with him on a lot of things, but it's a really good kind of baseline, especially in his book, How to Farm, and the follow-up, which was Your Successful Farm Business, I believe. Maybe it's backwards. Those are really good if you're looking at how to do things on a profit-type scale. There's a lot of other holistic management, regenerative ag books that I am still working my way through, so I can't really make a recommendation on them yet, just because I haven't finished reading them yet. So, but these are going to be the ones that I have done, read several times, still reference on occasion. Probably the biggest one, we'll start here, the Encyclopedia of Country Living. I bought this thing way back. I mean, this might even be my second copy of it. But it's a good book that covers a little bit of everything. I don't feel that it necessarily masters anything, but if you're looking for ideas, places to start, this is a really good book. Has a lot of stuff. Gosh, this is like the 9th edition. I don't even know how many editions are out now because I've had this one for years. So this is a really good one. The Back to Basics Handbook. I really like this book a lot too. It says it's a guide to buying and working land, raising livestock, enjoying your harvest and stuff. It's got a lot of really good information, hardiness zones, how solar and different power sources and things work. So this is a really good one. I still flip through this quite a bit. And then this one is also one that I've had a really long time. Self-Sufficiency for the 21st Century. These guys are pretty cool if I remember right. They're in England. Yeah, they're in England. Cornwall. Yeah, Cornwall, England. They do a lot of really cool stuff. If I had the climate for some of this, like they talk about ponds and doing a lot of placement based on streams and things. If I had the water for some of this stuff, I would totally love to have like the water wheel and things that they have. But a really cool book. I've always enjoyed it. I usually pull it out every winter and read at least sections of it. I think it's really a good overall starter book that covers a whole lot of things. And I don't know. I like the way they present the information. Lots of cool pictures and different stuff. So definitely one I would recommend. So another of my must-haves is How to Build Animal Housing. Now, I don't actually build most of the stuff the way that they do. But they've had some good ideas that I've modified some of the stuff that they've got in here. So it's a good starting place, especially if you don't have any building skills. They're pretty good at giving you like actual layouts on stuff. They present information on things you should be thinking about. But then, they tell you what kind of material they're using. It's just a really good overall book, and it covers a lot of stuff. There's everything from pig housing to nest boxes for rabbits, chicken boxes, all kinds of stuff. So it's a good overall book if you're not sure what you're doing. And it kind of gives you some size recommendations based on the animals that you're housing as well as what size buildings you need. Now, when it comes to gardening, there's only 3 books that I really use a lot. When we lived down south, I had a lot of other stuff, but The companion planting guide, Carrots Love Tomatoes, is one of my favorites. We do a lot of companion planting here. I know not everybody believes that it works, but I've had really good results with a lot of it. But this is kind of my go-to. It doesn't cover everything, so some of your more obscure vegetables, I still have to look online because not everything's in there. But overall, this has been a really good reference. Now, this little jewel I picked up at a Barnes & Noble years ago for like $4. It's the Miracle Grow Guide to Vegetable Growing. And I'm not a big Miracle Grow user. I'm sure everybody's like kind of cringing going, oh, Miracle Grow, Monsanto, and all the rest of it. Yes, in some of it, they will make recommendations, and not even on everything, but on some of these, they do make recommendations about you should feed Miracle Grow at this stage or this stage. But some of this has been really good, like they just tell you you want to use compost and at this time of the year and when to prune. I don't know if you can still get these. I'm sure you can probably find just about anything on eBay, but this has been one of my favorites. It's waterproof, which is nice, so I've taken this thing out to the garden and got it dirty, got it wet, spritzed it off, dried it off, and gone on with my life. So it's kind of a pretty nice deal. They used to have a whole collection of these. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if they even make them anymore, but definitely one of my favorites. And then when I got started gardening, the square foot gardening method, I like this a lot when you're first getting started and you don't have a whole lot of beds, especially if you're doing raised beds. The way Mel goes through it is really nice. I never did make his miracle mix, so can I tell you it works? I don't know. But he talks about how to space vegetables, because of course packets tell you spacing based on rows, and that's not what you're doing. You're doing a more intensive gardening usually when you're in a raised bed. So Mel does a nice job through there of talking about, with little diagrams of how many you can get into a square foot. We never did the hard grid, and I guess it's not, you can kind of see it on there. He did the hard grid with last strips. We actually, when we started, we would mark off our bed at 1 foot, put a screw in there, and then I would use really cheap yarn and make my grid that way, and it actually worked really good for us. Yes, they do break down, and yes, about every year you'd have to cut the string off, pull it off, and start over again. But for me, it was easier, and I liked it better, and the garden looked fun. I had like purple strings and red strings and yellow strings, and it worked for me, but definitely something to look at. That's one of my favorite gardening books. Now, like I said, I don't keep a lot of animal books, but some things that have been really helpful. I do like The Backyard Goat. Covers a whole lot of stuff. The Goat Handbook. And Raising Milk Goats Successfully. I've also got some on like meat goats and that kind of thing. One book that I really have been interested in that I haven't bit the bullet on because it's kind of pricey. I want to say it's like the Holistic Management Guide to Goat Raising or something along that line. It came out in the last couple years, and I would love to get my hands on it, but last time I looked at it, it was like $40, and I'm on a wee bit of a budget when it comes to books right now, so I passed on it. But when it comes to poultry, I'd like to keep it pretty general. You can get real specific with turkey books and duck books, but you cannot go wrong with some of these story guides. The only one that I don't care for is Story's Guide to Raising Rabbits, and it's not bad. I guess for a rabbit book, it'd probably be all right to start with, but it's kind of outdated. It talks about a lot of stuff that I don't really recommend, but their poultry guide is great, and my other favorite one is the Small Scale Poultry Flock. This guy does a really nice job. Harvey Ussery. It is not a terribly exciting read, I will say that. It's kind of technical in places and it's kind of monotonous, but it covers things by different sections. So you go and you look at chickens and you'll look at ducks, and then they talk about incubation and different ways to feed. So this is one of my favorites, and I like to peruse this every winter just to kind of give me ideas for the next year, either if I want to bring some new birds in or maybe try something different. So I know a lot of homesteaders are interested in herbs and herbal medicine, and I'm no different. So I've got two that I use. I've actually got like almost a dozen books on these, but the best that I've found is the Complete Herb Source Book. Again, you can tell I buy a lot of stuff at like Barnes & Noble on clearance. But yeah, I picked this one up, I'm pretty sure at Barnes & Noble, and it's a good reference for everything. So it'll tell you the parts used, collection methods, preparing it, usages. It's got a whole bunch of different charts in here that'll kind of tell you when these herbs are growing. A really good book. My other favorite, and I got this one I think off of eBay, is the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine. And really a cool book. Lots and lots of information. Again, everything from how to use it, habitat and cultivation, the different species, key actions, how it works, all that kind of stuff. It'll kind of even tell you how to use it. Like you can do capsules, you can do rubs, you can do all kinds of stuff. So these two are my favorite. If there are some things that aren't covered, so if what I'm looking for isn't covered in one of these two books, then I'll go to one of the other million that I've got. But those are my two favorite for herbal medicine. Past that, like I said, I've got books on all kinds of stuff. So I've got a book on donkeys from when we raised donkeys, and I've got books on Pyrenees and a lot of different stuff. But those are the ones that I use the most, that I most recommend. Of course, if you're not going to do goats or if you're not going to do poultry or whatever, you may not need some of those. But those are definitely my pick of things to have on your shelf if you're getting ready to homestead and doing any of the crazy stuff that we're doing. So there are some good greenhouse books and stuff out too, but it kind of depends on what you're looking for. There's lots of good books for inspiration. I had a greenhouse book that I gave away to somebody because we'd already kind of figured out what we were going to do here, and it was a really good inspirational little book of getting you motivated and seeing what you actually wanted to do. So lots of other good stuff. I'm not saying by far that this is the entire list, but those are my picks. And that is it for today on Sprague Homestead. If you've got other books that you recommend, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Maybe I've got them, maybe I don't. But you never know. You might help another viewer who might find something and say, hey, that's the book for me. So as always, questions, comments, concerns, you can always reach me at srhomestead@yahoo.com or send me a message through Instagram or Facebook. So that's it for today. Happy homesteading.